Have you ever felt drained, anxious, or unsettled after interacting with someone, even when nothing major happened? That lingering weight, the constant tension, the quiet undermining, it is the mark of toxic influence. Life is too short to surrender your peace, your clarity, and your sense of self to people who thrive on chaos, manipulation, or negativity. Today we are going to explore how to master your life by understanding, confronting, and protecting yourself from toxic people, not with anger or aggression, but with calm, mindful strength. 1. Recognize the signs of toxicity. The first step in mastering your life and protecting yourself from toxic people is awareness. Awareness is more than just knowing that toxic people exist. It is the ability to see patterns of behavior, subtle manipulation, and emotional drain for what they truly are. Toxic people are rarely obvious in their negativity. They rarely walk up to you and say, "I'm going to make your life harder." Their influence is usually slow, subtle, and almost invisible at first. They hide their control behind charm, humor, flattery, or even concern. They may make you feel special one moment and subtly belittle or undermine you the next. Because their actions are nuanced, it's easy to dismiss them or rationalize them as misunderstandings, personality quirks, or stress. But over time, these small interactions accumulate, leaving you drained, anxious, and unsure of yourself. Toxicity does not always come in the form of outright anger, shouting, or conflict. Often it appears in quieter, more insidious ways. A toxic person may twist your words in conversation, making you doubt your own judgment or memory. They might consistently dismiss your feelings, making you feel invisible or unworthy. They might play the victim constantly, ensuring that you feel guilty for any assertion of your own needs or boundaries. These patterns can be subtle enough that you only recognize the damage after months or even years of exposure. By that point, the constant erosion of your confidence and inner peace has become habitual, and you might not even realize that you are living at the mercy of someone else's energy. To truly recognize toxic behavior, you must start by observing not only what people say, but how you feel in their presence. Toxicity is often as much about how someone makes you feel as it is about their words or actions. Ask yourself, after interacting with someone, do I feel uplifted, neutral, or depleted? Do I feel anxious, defensive, or guilty? These feelings are signals from your own intuition and inner self. They are the mind and body's way of saying, "This is not healthy for you." Learn to trust these internal signals. They are often far more reliable than the excuses a toxic person might give for their behavior. Another critical aspect of recognizing toxic people is understanding the patterns in their interactions. Toxic individuals often create cycles that are predictable once you learn to see them. They may alternate between praise and criticism, love and neglect, charm and cruelty. These swings are deliberate. They are designed to keep you off balance and to make you reliant on their approval or attention. They thrive when you seek validation from them or feel compelled to fix their problems at the expense of your own peace. Once you recognize these cycles, you can begin to remove yourself from the automatic, unconscious responses that give them power over you. Awareness here is your shield. It allows you to see the play before you are caught in it. It is also essential to understand that recognizing toxicity is not the same as judging someone as evil or bad. Toxic behavior often comes from a place of pain, insecurity, or unresolved trauma. A person can behave in ways that harm you while still having vulnerabilities of their own. The difference lies in how much responsibility they take for their actions and whether they respect your boundaries. Recognizing toxic behavior is about clarity, not condemnation. It is about seeing the reality of the relationship clearly so that you can make informed choices about how to engage or whether to engage at all. Toxicity can take many forms, and sometimes it is disguised as concern, mentorship, or friendship. A toxic person may frequently give advice that undermines your confidence rather than building it. They may help in ways that make you feel indebted or controlled. They may insist on their way, subtly insisting that your choices are wrong, even when they have no authority over your life. This manipulation can feel almost invisible, but over time it chips away at your autonomy, self-esteem, and mental clarity. By becoming aware of these tactics, you prevent the erosion of your personal power. Awareness also requires reflection on your own responses. Often, toxic people exploit the aspects of ourselves that are vulnerable. They notice when you crave approval, fear conflict, or doubt your worth. They exploit those feelings repeatedly until your reactions become automatic. By observing your own patterns, your immediate anger, anxiety, or guilt, you gain insight into what triggers you and how you can interrupt these automatic responses. Toxicity only persists when it is fed by your energy. Awareness empowers you to stop feeding it, allowing you to reclaim your sense of control. Finally, recognizing toxic behavior is a practice, not a one-time realization. It takes patience and honesty with yourself. Some days you may find yourself second-guessing, questioning whether you are being too sensitive, or even rationalizing the behavior you previously recognized. This is normal. Toxic people are often skilled at creating doubt and confusion. The key is consistency in your self-reflection and clarity in observing patterns over time. Journaling your experiences, noting your feelings, and reviewing interactions can help solidify your awareness. Over time, this practice strengthens your intuition and helps you distinguish between harmless conflicts and patterns of toxicity that require boundaries. In essence, the first step to mastering your life is learning to recognize the signs of toxic influence in others. Awareness gives you the power to see clearly, respond deliberately, and protect your energy. It allows you to reclaim your sense of self, regain your confidence, and establish a life that prioritizes peace and growth over unnecessary stress and manipulation. When you see toxicity for what it is, you no longer fall into unconscious patterns of control or guilt. You create space to choose your reactions, your boundaries, and your relationships. Awareness does not change the other person, it changes you, and through that change, you gain the freedom to live a life that is guided by your values, not by someone else's chaos. 2. Protect your energy. Once you begin to recognize toxic people and their patterns, the next step is to protect your energy. This is not just a practical choice, it is a profound act of self-respect. Your energy, the mental, emotional, and spiritual force that fuels your actions, decisions, and well-being, is the most valuable resource you have. When toxic people drain it, whether through constant criticism, manipulation, passive aggression, or emotional demands, they rob you of your clarity, your calm, and even your sense of self. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. It is the foundation for living a life of intention, peace, and authenticity. Protecting your energy begins with understanding what it means to give your energy freely. Every conversation, every interaction, every thought you invest in someone else takes energy. When those around you are healthy, kind, and supportive, this exchange is balanced and replenishing. But when someone is toxic, the energy you give is rarely returned. Instead, it is consumed, distorted, or used against you. They may leave you feeling anxious, guilty, or inadequate long after the interaction has ended. Learning to recognize this dynamic is the first step toward protecting yourself. It is about noticing the effect someone has on your emotional and mental state and taking responsibility for preserving your well-being. Boundaries are the most important tool for protecting your energy. Setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to accommodating others, avoiding conflict, or seeking approval. But boundaries are not walls meant to punish or alienate. They are bridges to your own clarity and peace. They communicate to yourself and others what is acceptable and what is not. They define the space in which your energy can flow freely without being drained by others' negativity. Boundaries can take many forms. You may limit the time you spend with someone, refuse to engage in arguments, decline emotional labor that is not yours to carry, or choose not to respond to certain provocations. Every boundary you set reinforces the understanding that your energy is yours, not theirs to exploit. Protecting your energy also requires careful attention to your environment. Toxicity is not limited to individuals. It can be present in workplaces, social circles, or even digital spaces. The media you consume, the conversations you participate in, and the people you surround yourself with all influence your mental and emotional state. If you consistently find yourself stressed, irritated, or anxious after certain interactions, take that as a signal to step back. You have the right to choose the company you keep, the content you consume, and the interactions you allow to penetrate your mind. Protection is not isolation. It is the conscious selection of influences that support your growth, calm, and clarity. Another crucial aspect of protecting your energy is learning to disengage emotionally when necessary. Toxic people often rely on your emotional responses to exert control. They provoke anger, guilt, fear, or pity, and these reactions feed their need for dominance or validation. By observing your own emotional responses and learning to pause before reacting, you reclaim power. Breathing deeply, reflecting before speaking, or even choosing silence can prevent your energy from being stolen. Disengagement is a quiet, powerful act. It allows you to maintain your composure and ensures that your energy is spent where it truly matters: on your life, your goals, and your peace. It is also essential to cultivate self-awareness about how you give your energy. Many people unknowingly invest themselves in toxic relationships out of a desire to help, please, or avoid conflict. While empathy and compassion are valuable qualities, they should not come at the expense of your well-being. Evaluate where your energy is going and why. Are you trying to fix someone who does not want to be fixed? Are you seeking approval from someone who will never offer it freely? Are you carrying emotional burdens that are not yours to bear? By asking these questions honestly, you can redirect your energy toward endeavors, relationships, and practices that nourish you rather than deplete you. Protecting your energy also involves cultivating practices that restore it. Meditation, mindful breathing, walking in nature, journaling, reading, or any quiet restorative activity can replenish the reserves that toxic interactions drain. Think of your energy as a battery. Constant exposure to negativity drains it, while intentional practices recharge it. The more you invest in replenishment, the stronger and more resilient you become, and the less susceptible you are to being influenced or manipulated. Finally, protecting your energy is a lifelong commitment. It is not a one-time act, but a daily practice of awareness, boundary setting, and self-care. Some days will be easier than others. Some encounters may slip through your defenses, testing your patience and resolve. That is natural. The key is to return consistently to the practice of noticing where your energy goes, setting limits where it is being consumed, and prioritizing interactions and activities that honor your well-being. Over time, protecting your energy becomes second nature. It becomes a quiet, unshakable force that allows you to live with calm, clarity, and strength, even when surrounded by negativity. Remember, your energy is sacred. It fuels your thoughts, your actions, your creativity, and your peace. Protect it fiercely, not out of fear, but out of love and respect for yourself. When you do, you are no longer at the mercy of others' toxicity. You move through life with a centered, calm strength that cannot be shaken. You become the guardian of your own mind, heart, and soul. And in protecting your energy, You create a life where your focus, joy, and presence are preserved for what truly matters: your growth, your peace, and the people and pursuits that uplift you. 3. Respond. Don't sit, react. One of the most powerful tools you can develop when dealing with toxic people is the ability to respond rather than react. At first, this may seem like a subtle difference, but it is profound in its impact. Reaction is immediate, often impulsive, and fueled by emotion, anger, fear, frustration, or guilt. Response, on the other hand, is deliberate, thoughtful, and grounded in awareness. When you react, you hand over your energy to someone else's influence. You allow their words, actions, or presence to dictate your emotions and decisions. When you respond, you reclaim your power. You choose how to engage, whether to engage, and the tone in which you engage. This distinction is the essence of emotional mastery and a cornerstone of personal freedom. To respond rather than react, you must first pause. Pausing is more than a brief silence. It is a conscious act of stepping out of the automatic cycle of emotional escalation. Toxic people often rely on immediate reactions to maintain control. They provoke with words or actions designed to unsettle you, to elicit anger, defensiveness, or guilt. The moment you pause, you interrupt this cycle. In that pause lies clarity. In that pause lies the ability to choose the next step intentionally. Even a few deep breaths before speaking can transform a heated moment into an opportunity for calm assertion and measured action. Responding requires mindfulness. Observe your own emotions as they arise without judgment. Anger, frustration, or fear is natural and valid, but it does not have to dictate your behavior. Recognize that these emotions are signals, not commands. They reveal where your boundaries are being tested, where your energy is being challenged, and where your values are being provoked. By acknowledging your emotions without immediately acting on them, you create space for discernment. You can ask yourself, does my reaction serve me? Does it protect my peace or escalate conflict? Am I choosing this behavior intentionally, or am I letting someone else dictate my emotional state? Language plays a critical role in responding rather than reacting. Toxic people often use words to manipulate, shame, or provoke. They may twist your statements, attack your choices, or subtly undermine your confidence. Responding with measured, clear language allows you to maintain control over the interaction. Speak slowly, with intention, and avoid language that inflames the situation. Avoid the trap of defending yourself repeatedly, over-explaining, or justifying your worth to someone who has already decided to challenge it. Your words are not weapons, but instruments of calm clarity. The more deliberate and composed your language, the less power the other person has over your emotional state. Another vital aspect of responding is choosing your engagement wisely. You are not obligated to respond to every provocation, question, or criticism. Silence, when used mindfully, can be more powerful than any verbal reply. It communicates that you are grounded, that you are not controlled by their attempts to unsettle you, and that you choose where your energy flows. Choosing when to engage and when to step back is a subtle art that strengthens your autonomy and protects your peace. It also demonstrates to others, and most importantly to yourself, that your emotional life is yours to manage. Responding also involves maintaining perspective. Toxic behavior often magnifies trivial matters, creating unnecessary tension. By seeing the larger picture, you can prevent yourself from getting caught in the small, manipulative details. Ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Will it matter next week? Does this affect my life, my values, or my goals, or is it simply an attempt to provoke me? This perspective creates distance between you and the toxicity, allowing you to respond with calm intention rather than reactive emotion. Perspective transforms overwhelming situations into manageable, navigable experiences, and it allows your energy to be preserved rather than consumed. Equally important is self-compassion during this process. Many people struggle with responding instead of reacting because they feel guilty for asserting boundaries or maintaining calm. They fear being seen as cold, distant, or unkind. Protect yourself from these judgments. Choosing a calm, intentional response is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is a reflection of your awareness and your commitment to your own well-being. Treat yourself kindly for taking this difficult but necessary step. Your inner calm is worth more than temporary approval or validation from someone who thrives on chaos. Finally, responding rather than reacting is a practice, not a one-time achievement. Some days, a toxic person's words may hit harder, and you may feel yourself slipping into reactive patterns. This is normal and does not indicate failure. Each moment is an opportunity to practice again. Each interaction where you pause, observe, and respond rather than react strengthens your capacity for emotional mastery. Over time, this practice transforms your life. You move through interactions with toxic people or any difficult circumstance with resilience, clarity, and calm, and the subtle but profound change is visible in every aspect of your life. When you learn to respond instead of react, you reclaim your energy, preserve your peace, and assert your autonomy. You no longer live in the emotional tides of others' manipulation or negativity. You create a space where decisions are yours, feelings are yours, and actions are intentional. You transform conflict into opportunity, provocation into reflection, and toxicity into clarity. This mastery of response is not just a tool for dealing with toxic people, it is a principle for mastering your entire life, allowing you to navigate challenges with calm, wisdom, and unwavering presence. 4. Understand their pain, not excuse their behavior. As you continue mastering your life and navigating interactions with toxic people, one of the most profound realizations you can make is that their behavior often comes from a place of pain. This is not to excuse their actions, nor to justify the harm they may cause. It is simply to see clearly the origins of their toxicity, and through this clarity, to protect yourself without carrying their burden. Understanding someone's pain allows you to separate their struggle from your own peace. It allows you to respond with awareness rather than anger or confusion, and it liberates you from the emotional grip that their behavior might otherwise have over you. Toxic people are rarely malicious purely for the sake of being harmful. More often, their negativity, manipulation, or criticism stems from deep-seated insecurities, unresolved trauma, or patterns of thinking they have carried for years. They may have been wounded in childhood, betrayed by those they trusted, or consistently undermined in their own lives. These experiences shape the way they relate to others. Their need to control, belittle, or provoke is often a reflection of their own fear, anxiety, or lack of self-worth. Understanding this truth does not excuse the damage they cause, but it reframes it. It shifts your perspective from being a target of malice to being an observer of human suffering. When you understand the source of their behavior, you create a mental and emotional space between yourself and their toxicity. You begin to see that their anger, criticism, or manipulation is not about you personally. It is about them, their pain, and their unhealed wounds. This awareness is liberating. It prevents you from internalizing their negativity, questioning your value, or taking responsibility for emotions that are not yours to carry. You are no longer a mirror reflecting their fears. You are a grounded, self-aware presence, witnessing patterns without being consumed by them. It is important to approach this understanding with clarity. Compassion does not mean submission, nor does it mean tolerating abuse or allowing your boundaries to be violated. Compassion in this context is the ability to recognize suffering without being controlled by it. You acknowledge that a toxic person is acting from a place of pain, and you allow that understanding to guide your response, not to justify staying trapped in their influence. Compassion creates distance and perspective. It enables you to respond firmly, calmly, and intentionally, rather than reacting with anger or fear. Recognizing the pain behind toxic behavior also helps you release resentment. It is easy to dwell on the harm someone has caused, to replay moments of manipulation, criticism, or betrayal over and over in your mind. This only amplifies your suffering. When you understand that their actions stem from inner wounds, you begin to see the futility of resentment. Their pain is theirs, not yours, and holding on to anger only prolongs your entanglement with them. Forgiveness here does not mean forgetting or excusing. It means reclaiming your peace by refusing to carry what is not yours. It is an act of self-liberation, not generosity toward the toxic person. Understanding their pain also provides insight into how to interact with them effectively without being consumed. When you see the fears or insecurities that drive their behavior, you can anticipate patterns and protect yourself proactively. You do not need to engage in arguments or attempt to change them, but you can navigate interactions with clarity. You learn when to step back, when to remain silent, and when to assert boundaries firmly. By observing their triggers and responses through the lens of understanding, you gain a strategic advantage. You preserve your energy while they remain locked in the patterns of their own making. At the same time, it is crucial to maintain perspective on your own worth and autonomy. Understanding someone's pain should never blur the line between empathy and self-sacrifice. Your life, peace, and well-being remain paramount. Recognizing that a person acts from pain does not obligate you to accept mistreatment or compromise your boundaries. It simply allows you to act from a place of wisdom rather than reaction. You engage with awareness rather than anger, distance rather than resentment, and calm rather than fear. This principle also transforms how you view human relationships in general. Everyone carries unseen burdens, fears, and insecurities. The toxic people in your life are extreme examples, but the lesson extends to all interactions. When you understand that behavior often stems from internal struggles rather than personal attacks, you approach others with a balanced perspective. You cultivate empathy without losing yourself. You allow your relationships to be guided by awareness, clarity, and intentionality, rather than being hijacked by emotional impulses. Ultimately, understanding their pain is a practice of clarity and emotional sovereignty. It reminds you that their behavior is a reflection of their journey, not a reflection of your value. It allows you to respond with calm, measured presence rather than reacting with fear, guilt, or anger. It allows you to maintain boundaries firmly while acknowledging the humanity behind difficult behavior, and it allows you to reclaim your energy, your peace, and your ability to live intentionally. When you integrate this lesson into your life, you become less reactive, less emotionally entangled, and more resilient. You recognize toxicity without taking it personally. You set boundaries without feeling guilt. You interact with awareness instead of being manipulated by emotions. And above all, you preserve the sacred space within yourself, your energy, your clarity, and your peace, while witnessing the struggles of others without being consumed by them. In the end, understanding their pain is not about excusing behavior. It is about freeing yourself. It is a quiet, profound mastery of your mind and heart. It is the ability to see clearly, protect yourself, and navigate human complexity with grace, calm, and unwavering presence. And when you practice this, you no longer live at the mercy of others' toxicity. You live as the master of your own life. 5. Strengthen your inner foundation. As you continue on the journey of mastering your life and dealing with toxic people, one of the most essential steps is to strengthen your inner foundation. Your inner foundation is the core of who you are, your values, your sense of self-worth, your clarity of purpose, and your ability to remain centered amid chaos. Without a strong foundation, even small interactions with negativity can shake your equilibrium, leaving you anxious, reactive, or doubtful. A solid inner foundation, on the other hand, acts like an unshakable anchor in a turbulent sea. It allows you to navigate the storms of human interaction without losing sight of yourself. Building this foundation begins with self-knowledge. You must know who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not compromise. Take time to reflect on your values, your priorities, and the kind of life you want to live. Ask yourself, what principles guide my decisions? What relationships or situations bring me peace, and which ones drain me? What actions align with my integrity, and which actions betray it? The more clearly you understand these aspects of yourself, the less likely you are to be manipulated, pressured, or swayed by others' toxic behavior. When your foundation is rooted in self-awareness, you respond to challenges with clarity rather than reaction. A strong inner foundation is also built through cultivating emotional resilience. Toxic people often provoke anger, fear, or guilt to destabilize you. When your foundation is strong, you are able to experience these emotions without being controlled by them. Emotional resilience is not the absence of feeling, it is the ability to acknowledge and process your emotions without letting them dictate your actions or cloud your judgment. Practices such as meditation, journaling, mindfulness, or even reflective walking help you observe your emotions as they arise, understand their source, and choose how to respond. Over time, this resilience transforms your inner life into a steady, calm presence that cannot easily be shaken by external negativity. Equally important is cultivating mental clarity. Toxic people often create confusion, doubt, and self-questioning. They may twist facts, misrepresent your words, or inject chaos into otherwise simple situations. A strong inner foundation provides a lens of clarity through which you can see these tactics for what they are. Mental clarity comes from consistent reflection, honest self-assessment, and mindful observation of your own thoughts. When your mind is clear, you can discern between reality and manipulation, between truth and the distortions created by toxic influence. You gain the ability to make decisions based on insight rather than pressure, to act from strength rather than fear, and to maintain a steady course, even when the world around you feels uncertain. Another pillar of your inner foundation is self-worth. Toxic people often attempt to diminish your confidence, make you question your value, or subtly imply that you are not enough. Strengthening your inner foundation means cultivating an unshakable sense of your own worth, independent of external validation. This does not come from arrogance or self-absorption. It comes from recognizing your intrinsic value as a human being and honoring your own needs, boundaries, and aspirations. Self-worth allows you to say no without guilt, to remove yourself from harmful situations without fear, and to maintain your peace even when others attempt to undermine it. Discipline is also an essential element of a strong foundation. Discipline is not punishment, it is the structure that supports your intentions. When you commit to daily practices that strengthen your mind, body, and spirit, such as mindful reflection, exercise, reading, or consistent work toward your goals, you reinforce your foundation. Discipline teaches you patience, endurance, and focus. It ensures that your inner stability is not dependent on external circumstances, but is cultivated from consistent, intentional effort. In this way, you create a life that is self-directed rather than reactive, anchored in purpose rather than shaped by others' chaos. Connection with your deeper purpose further solidifies your foundation. Toxic people often try to pull you into trivial conflicts or distract you from what truly matters. A strong sense of purpose keeps you centered, reminding you of what deserves your energy and what does not. Reflect on your goals, your passions, and the impact you want to create in your life and the world. When your actions are aligned with this purpose, external negativity has less power. Toxic interactions may still occur, but they become minor disturbances rather than defining forces in your life. Purpose provides direction, meaning, and a filter for what is worth engaging with and what is not. Finally, a strong inner foundation allows you to remain grounded in your presence. Presence is the quiet, steady awareness of yourself in the moment. When you are fully present, you are not carried away by fears, doubts, or reactive impulses. You can observe toxic behavior without internalizing it, act with clarity without being provoked, and engage with others without losing yourself. Presence is cultivated through mindfulness, reflection, and intentional living. It is the anchor that allows you to remain calm in the midst of storms, to respond rather than react, and to protect your peace without feeling the need to control others. When you integrate all these elements, self-knowledge, emotional resilience, mental clarity, self-worth, discipline, purpose, and presence, you create a foundation that cannot easily be shaken. Toxic people may still attempt to provoke, manipulate, or unsettle you, but their power over you is greatly diminished. You operate from a place of strength rather than fear, from awareness rather than reactivity, and from peace rather than chaos. Your foundation becomes your sanctuary, your internal compass, and the source of calm that guides you through life's challenges. Strengthening your inner foundation is not a one-time task. It is a lifelong practice. Each day, each interaction, and each reflection builds upon the previous. Some days will feel more challenging, and toxic influences may still penetrate your calm temporarily. That is natural. What matters is that you return to your practices, reaffirm your boundaries, and continue nurturing your inner strength. Over time, you will find that even the most difficult interactions leave you centered, clear, and resilient. In the end, a strong inner foundation is the ultimate defense against toxicity. It allows you to navigate life with confidence, wisdom, and serenity. It empowers you to maintain your peace, to make conscious choices, and to live in alignment with your values and purpose. When you cultivate this foundation, you no longer need to be shaken by others' negativity. You become the master of your own life, rooted in clarity, guided by purpose, and shielded by the strength of your own being. 6. Let go of the need for approval. One of the most subtle yet powerful ways toxic people influence our lives is through our own desire for approval. This desire is not inherently bad. It is a natural human need to be seen, understood, and valued. However, when it becomes a habit to rely on external validation to define our worth, it becomes a vulnerability. Toxic people sense this dependence and exploit it. They manipulate, criticize, or withhold acknowledgement to control your thoughts, emotions, and actions. The moment you recognize this dynamic, the first step toward reclaiming your power is to let go of the need for approval. This is not about arrogance or indifference. It is about cultivating self-reliance, clarity, and emotional sovereignty. Letting go of approval begins with understanding its nature. External validation is fleeting, inconsistent, and often conditional. It depends on the moods, judgments, or desires of others, none of which you can fully control. Seeking it is akin to building your house on sand, unstable and prone to collapse at the first wave of criticism or rejection. When you anchor your sense of self-worth in others' opinions, your peace becomes fragile, your confidence dependent, and your decisions reactive. Recognizing this truth allows you to shift your foundation inward, where it is steady, consistent, and aligned with your values. This process starts with self-reflection. Examine your actions and motives. Are you making choices because they resonate with your values and purpose, or because they will be approved by someone else? Many people unconsciously prioritize pleasing others over honoring their own needs. They stay in toxic relationships, accept harmful behavior, or suppress their desires to avoid disapproval. Reflect honestly on where this dynamic exists in your life. Awareness is the first step to liberation. When you see the patterns, you can begin to disentangle your sense of self from the judgments of others. The next step is cultivating self-validation. This means learning to acknowledge your own efforts, recognize your growth, and honor your feelings without waiting for others to do so. When you celebrate your own achievements, no matter how small, and give yourself permission to make choices aligned with your integrity, you strengthen your internal sense of worth. Self-validation acts as armor against the manipulations of toxic people. Their criticism may still sting, but it cannot erode the foundation you have built within yourself. Over time, you realize that the approval you once sought from others is unnecessary. The most important acknowledgement comes from within. Letting go of approval also requires practicing discernment in your interactions. Toxic individuals often use praise or recognition as a tool for control, giving it selectively to keep you seeking more. Recognize when praise is manipulative and when it is genuine. Approach all feedback with clarity. Does it serve your growth, or does it tether you to someone else's expectations? By examining the source and intent behind approval, you regain choice over your emotional investment. You engage with authenticity, not dependence, and you allow validation to come from those who uplift without controlling. Another key aspect of releasing the need for approval is embracing discomfort. For many people, letting go of approval feels frightening because it means facing disapproval, rejection, or isolation. You may fear losing relationships, respect, or affection. Accept that discomfort is part of the process. Freedom and authenticity are rarely comfortable at first. The more you allow yourself to face discomfort without compromising your values, the stronger and more resilient your sense of self becomes. Each instance of standing firm without seeking validation reinforces your inner authority. Mindfulness and presence are powerful tools in this practice. When you observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment, you begin to notice the moments when you are seeking approval. Perhaps it is a hesitation to speak your truth, a tendency to conform, or a need to justify your actions. Awareness allows you to pause, breathe, and choose differently. You may choose to act in alignment with your own values, regardless of external response. This simple but consistent practice rewires your mind, replacing dependency on others' approval with trust in your own judgment and integrity. It is also important to cultivate self-compassion during this process. Letting go of approval does not happen overnight, and there will be moments when you slip back into old patterns. Do not judge yourself harshly. Recognize that this journey is part of growth, and treat yourself with patience and kindness. Celebrate your progress, even small steps, and remind yourself that true freedom comes from within. Self-compassion reinforces self-validation, allowing you to release the emotional hooks that toxic people rely on to control you. Finally, letting go of the need for approval transforms every aspect of your life. Relationships become healthier because they are based on authenticity, not manipulation. Decisions become clearer because they are guided by values, not fear of judgment. You gain the courage to set boundaries, speak your truth, and walk away from situations that no longer serve you. Toxic people lose their power because you no longer feed their need for control through dependence or compliance. Your life becomes guided by intention, calm, and clarity, rather than external influence. When you fully integrate this lesson, you realize that the freedom you gain is profound. You no longer live for the applause or approval of others. Your peace is self-generated, your confidence self-sustained, and your choices aligned with your purpose. toxic influences may still exist, but they no longer control your mind, emotions, or actions. By letting go of the need for approval, you reclaim your life. You step into a space of sovereignty, calm, and authenticity, where your energy, your focus, and your peace belong to you alone. This practice, like all lessons in mastering life, is ongoing. Each day offers new opportunities to notice where you are seeking approval, to pause, and to choose differently. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, seeking validation from others fades, replaced by an inner assurance that cannot be shaken. This inner assurance is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is presence. It is freedom. It is the quiet power that allows you to navigate toxic situations with grace, strength, and unwavering calm. 7. Distance with grace. The final lesson in mastering your life and protecting yourself from toxic people is one of the most powerful, yet often the most difficult: learning to distance yourself with grace. Distancing is not an act of cruelty or abandonment. It is an act of self-respect, clarity, and preservation. It is the understanding that your peace, your energy, and your growth are sacred, and sometimes the only way to protect them is to create space from those who continually disrupt them. This space can be physical, emotional, or mental. It is a conscious choice to step back from relationships or situations that drain you, manipulate you, or compromise your well-being. The first step in distancing with grace is acknowledging the need for it. Many people hesitate to create distance because they fear conflict, judgment, or feelings of guilt. They worry about how others will perceive their choices or fear the discomfort of change. Yet, the truth is that failing to distance yourself from toxicity has far greater costs: lost energy, diminished clarity, and compromised self-worth. Recognize that creating boundaries and space is not selfish, it is essential. It is a declaration that your life, your peace, and your growth are priorities, and that you will no longer allow others' negativity to dictate your emotional state. Distancing with grace requires intention and mindfulness. It is not about cutting people off impulsively or reacting out of anger. Rather, it is a deliberate decision based on clarity and self-awareness. Consider what kind of distance is necessary. Do you need less frequent contact, limited topics of conversation, or complete separation? Each situation is unique, and your response should reflect careful consideration rather than impulsive emotion. When you act with intention, you maintain your dignity and integrity while removing yourself from harm. This approach ensures that your actions are guided by wisdom, not by retaliation or resentment. Another vital aspect of distancing is communicating your boundaries calmly and respectfully. When appropriate, express your needs clearly, without anger, accusation, or justification. You might say, "I need to step back from this conversation," or "I need some space to focus on my own growth." Such statements are firm yet graceful. They affirm your right to protect your energy while avoiding unnecessary conflict. By communicating boundaries in this way, you demonstrate self-respect and emotional intelligence. You maintain control over your actions and show that distancing is a conscious choice, not a reaction to hostility. Distancing with grace also involves letting go of the need for explanation or validation. Toxic people may challenge your decisions, pressure you to justify your actions, or manipulate you into guilt. Understand that you owe no detailed explanation or proof for prioritizing your own well-being. Your peace is not negotiable. By releasing the need to defend yourself, you reinforce your boundaries and protect your emotional energy. This is a quiet but powerful act of empowerment. It reminds you that your life is yours to direct, and no one else has the authority to control it. Emotional detachment is a key part of this process. Distancing does not necessarily mean cutting off all feelings for someone, especially if they were once close or shared meaningful experiences. It means releasing your emotional dependence on them. You no longer allow their moods, words, or actions to dictate your sense of self-worth or your happiness. You observe their behavior without taking it personally, and you engage only to the extent that it aligns with your values and preserves your energy. This detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the quiet strength of a mind that is no longer tethered to external chaos. In practicing graceful distance, self-compassion is essential. It is natural to feel guilt, sadness, or loss when stepping away from toxic relationships. These emotions do not indicate weakness, they indicate humanity. Allow yourself to experience them fully without letting them dictate your choices. Acknowledge the pain, but do not let it compromise your decision. By treating yourself kindly during this process, you reinforce the understanding that prioritizing your peace is not only acceptable, it is necessary. Your well-being deserves the same care and respect that you would offer to those you love and nurture. Distance with grace also creates space for reflection and growth. When you step back from toxic influence, you gain clarity on what you truly need, what aligns with your values, and what kind of relationships are healthy and nourishing. This space allows you to observe patterns in your own behavior, learn from past experiences, and strengthen your inner foundation. You realize that distancing is not about punishment or revenge. It is about creating the conditions for your own growth, serenity, and resilience. It is an investment in yourself, one that pays dividends in energy, clarity, and inner peace. Importantly, distancing with grace is not permanent in all cases. Some relationships may heal over time, and some people may change in ways that allow for reconnection. Others may remain a source of harm indefinitely. The key is that your decision is always grounded in clarity and self-respect. You are not bound by past attachments or social expectations. You are free to choose the interactions, connections, and energies that serve your highest good. This freedom is both liberating and transformative, giving you the power to cultivate a life that aligns with your values rather than being dictated by the whims or toxicity of others. Ultimately, distancing with grace is a declaration of sovereignty. It is the understanding that your peace, clarity, and growth are priceless, and that maintaining them requires courage, wisdom, and intentional action. When you distance with grace, you do so without bitterness, without judgment, and without revenge. You do so calmly, firmly, and with dignity. You reclaim your space, your energy, and your freedom. You demonstrate that your life is guided by awareness, not reaction, by values, not manipulation, by calm presence, not chaos. When you integrate this lesson, the impact is profound. Toxic people lose their control because you no longer feed the patterns that sustain their influence. Your mind is clear, your heart is calm, and your energy is preserved. Your relationships become intentional, aligned, and nourishing. And above all, you step fully into your life with clarity, dignity, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that your peace is sacred and that you will protect it with wisdom and grace. Distancing with grace is not easy. It challenges habits, confronts guilt, and sometimes requires the courage to face discomfort. But the reward is priceless: freedom, clarity, energy, and inner peace. It is the final step in mastering your life in the presence of toxicity, the act that allows all the other lessons: awareness, energy protection, mindful response, compassion, inner foundation, and self-validation to come together fully. When you distance with grace, you complete the circle of self-mastery, creating a life guided by calm, wisdom, and unshakable presence. Life will always present challenges, and difficult, draining, or toxic people are part of that landscape. But the way you navigate these interactions is entirely within your control. You have the power to recognize toxicity, protect your energy, Respond with clarity, understand without excusing, strengthen your foundation, release the need for approval, and distance with grace. Each step is an act of self-mastery, an assertion of your right to peace, clarity, and freedom. Remember, you cannot control the behavior of others, but you can control your response. You cannot change someone else's pain, but you can choose not to carry it. You cannot rely on the approval of others, but you can cultivate unshakable self-worth. When you integrate these lessons into your life, you move through the world with calm presence, steady confidence, and unwavering clarity. Your life is yours, your energy, your peace, your choices. Guard them fiercely, nurture them intentionally, and live guided by awareness rather than reaction. When you do, toxic people lose their power, and your life transforms into a space of serenity, strength, and purpose. Step into this freedom today. Choose yourself, choose peace, choose clarity, and in doing so, you reclaim not just your life, but the quiet, unshakable power that has always been within you.